Welcome to a new series of podcasts from Chatham Historic Dockyard Trust, where we look at the people of the dockyard. We focus on the stories and experiences of the staff, volunteers, visitors, businesses and residents which make up this unique community. In addition, we take a look at exhibitions, events and attractions at the dockyard. My name is John Robinson and I'm a volunteer researcher at the dockyard. In this episode, we hear from Pip Blackmore about her role as the Volunteers Coordinator. Pip starts by telling us about her family links to the dockyard and about the number of volunteer groups that she is responsible for.
I've been coming to the dockyard since I was a very little girl. Various members of my family would take me here because of our family connection. I think it is something like 7 generations, maybe more, of my family worked here at the dockyard. So I've got quite a long connection with the dockyard, even before I started working here. My granddad did his apprenticeship here, and he used to tell me great stories about his apprenticeship, and I think he was a bit naughty to some of the things he got up to. And then I think that some of the foremen and the other workers were quite cheeky as well. He used to tell me a story about being told to go get tartan paint from the stores and a left-handed hammer and things like that. And I used to find those stories great when I was a kid. So I've always sort of, been very fond of the dockyard and had lots of lovely memories attached to it. And then another element that I find a bit amusing, maybe on a personal note, is that one of my first jobs actually was here at the dockyard. When I was 14, I was a catering assistant for a catering company that catered mostly for weddings. And I did a few weddings in Commissioner's House, and I always thought to myself that it was a weird quirk that my granddad started here when he was 14 to do his apprenticeship, and I was working here too at 14, and I loved Commissioner's House. It was such a beautiful building. And then my mum actually, she worked for Greenwich University for a little bit, which is over in the Navy side of the dockyard, so still in the dockyard. So really, I mean, it could be a continuous line of my mum's family that have worked here right through to me, and my sister. My sister worked here for a little bit as well. I'm the Volunteers Coordinator here, and I've been in that role for 2 years now. And before that, I worked with the learning team. And I think it's now something like 8 years I've been working at the dockyard. And actually, I love both roles. I really like the varied element of working for the learning team and now working with the volunteers. And it's great. The volunteers are just as enthusiastic about the dockyard as I am. I finally have an audience, I think, of people that want to talk as much about the dockyard as I do, which is really lovely. I look after 300 volunteers here at the dockyard. We have 9 different groups, depending on how you look at it, because some of our groups do kind of have subgroups as well. They all come in at different days and do very different important jobs across the site. We have our collections volunteers, and they help us manage our collection. They help catalogue the collection, and also they help with conservation, and they're such a vital resource for us. We also have a big group of those collection and conservation volunteers that help with Slip 3, which is a really big project that relies heavily on volunteers, because we have some lovely large artefacts in our slip that we wouldn't be able to care for as well as we do without our volunteers. Then we have our learning volunteers, and they help bring around education groups, and they do an amazing job. I think they must actually end up walking miles and miles across the site, helping out schools and making sure they they get to their sessions they need to. They're amazing. And then we have our ships volunteers, and they look after our 3 historic vessels. Again, I don't know how we would be able to maintain our ships as we do without them. And they're so passionate about our ships, and they have amazing skills as well. A lot of them worked here, which is lovely. I really love hearing about their time here. It really reminds me of a lot of the stories that my family would tell me about working here. And then we have our railway volunteers. They're a great group. They look after our locomotives on site and the track. They're really a group of dynamic individuals that are incredibly passionate about locomotives. I love hearing them talk about our locomotives because they're just so passionate. You can't help but be passionate about them as well, really. And then we have our outreach volunteers, and they help us with our community engagement and our projects that we say have in our libraries or schools or even care homes, and they're great. And I'm always so impressed with them. They give up their evenings and their weekends to help out. Then we have the Historical Society, and they're again a very amazing group that a lot of them have connections with the dockyard. They worked here, and they're a great resource for knowledge and information about the dockyard, and they have their own collection too of really interesting items. And when the dockyard closed in '84, they were actually responsible for saving a lot of the items that we have now, and we do have some of their items on display too for the public to see. And they produce some very interesting journals as well about the site's history. And then we have the voluntary service. They're a great group. Their kind of skills and expertise are in vehicles. They're just great with engines and technology, and they really do amaze me. There's one individual, Frank, who is just the font of all knowledge for things. He's amazing, and we're very lucky to have him. And then we have the RNLI volunteers, and they look after our RNLI gallery in Slip 4. And they do an amazing job looking after the boats there, and they also get involved in promoting water safety and fundraising for the RNLI as well. They're a very active group. We're also very lucky to have them. And then we have our researchers. They're a really great group because we get so many inquiries that they can help us with, and they can also help us with really exploring the history of the site a little bit more. They're great at helping us produce new tours and new exhibitions. And I know that they work a lot with the collections department, the staff in that department, and they're just a really valuable resource.
Interested in finding out more about visiting the dockyard? Then the website is easily accessible by typing Chatham Dockyard in your browser, or if you want the website address, it is thedockyard.co.uk. That is thedockyard.co.uk. You'll be able to buy tickets online, and the great thing is the cost of a ticket gives you access to the dockyard for a year. 2024 is the 200th anniversary of the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, and this is being celebrated at the dockyard with an excellent temporary exhibition in the newly refurbished Number 1 Smithery. RNLI 200, the exhibition, is open until the 1st of September 2024. There is also a permanent exhibition on site of the UK's largest collection of historic lifeboats. And now more from Pip Blackmore about her role as the volunteers coordinator. In this part, Pip talks about her interactions with the groups, the social activities, and her part in the pastoral care provided by the dockyard to volunteers.
It's an amazing privilege to be the volunteers coordinator. I do have a very busy schedule, and in some ways it is quite a big responsibility to look after 300 individuals, and the nature of that number of individuals does mean that from time to time certain individuals need more support, and a big part of my role is the pastoral care. And I do like to have an open door policy, and I like to think that the volunteers can come and talk to me about their problems, and I do try and provide as much support as I can. And I really do enjoy working with people, and I really value our volunteers, and if I can support them as much as I can, I will. I really, as I said, really do enjoy working with the volunteers. Some of my favourite parts of the day is just having a chat with the volunteers. It's so lovely having so many different, diverse individuals to look after. I really enjoy that. And it keeps my attention span as well, actually, because it's just lovely that no one day is ever the same. With our groups, I think by the nature of what the groups do, there is a lot of diversity of personalities and perhaps kind of objectives and what volunteers want from volunteering with us. So I have to be quite adaptable and quite able to respond to changing things on a perhaps sometimes a day-to-day basis, but I really enjoy that. Some of the things I've been doing that does actually feed into the pastoral side of my job is organising social activities. A lot of our volunteers enjoy having a chance to get together and socialise and talk about their work, and I think the teams really benefit from some of the things I've organised, like our coffee morning. So we have quite a regular coffee morning every other month, and that gives those 9 groups a chance to all come together in one space and chat, and I think it's actually a really good team building exercise, actually, because some of the groups might not see each other for weeks at a time just because it's such a big site and they're doing quite different activities. I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I've just had amazing feedback from the coffee mornings. And then what I have done with some of our coffee mornings as well is I've had a bit of a theme with them, and I had a bit of feedback from some of the volunteer teams around Christmas time that they struggled a bit with Christmas. It's actually quite a tricky time of year for anyone that suffered a bereavement, and that goes across the whole of our teams. So we had a little bit of a theme to our Christmas coffee morning, where we had a Christmas tree, and volunteers could put memories of their loved ones on the Christmas tree, and that really opened up some probably quite useful, I'd say, conversations with the volunteers, where they were able to talk about how they were slightly struggling over the Christmas period. So something that looks on the face of it like a chance to have a cake and a cup of tea can actually be really useful and really, I like to think, benefit the volunteers. So I do work quite hard on events like that to try and support the volunteers. And also I run our Facebook, which is a really nice team building exercise too, and that's lovely. I've seen volunteers really get more and more involved with that as it's gone on, and it's great that the teams will post on there what they're doing and everyone else can see what they're doing. And trips are another big one. We love an outing to a historical site, so I always try and put a few of those in throughout the year. We've been to Sheppey recently, and we went to a few of their museums there, and that actually was very interesting because Sheppey has a similar history to Chatham with their dockyard, so the volunteers quite enjoyed that. And then most recently we went to Dover and we went to the Fan Bay Fort there, and basically we got a chance to have a look around the wartime tunnels. That was lovely. And then our next big trip will be the Medway Queen, and I think the teams are quite excited for that because I've had lots of questions and lots of emails, so we're all looking forward to that. And again, the trips are a chance for us all to catch up, have a little bit of downtime, and I think that's just so valuable. And it's also a chance for us to show how much we appreciate what the volunteers do. And we also have a big quiz, that's a new one. The research volunteers particularly like the quiz, and actually it was a suggestion of theirs. I do react to feedback, so I get some great feedback from the teams. And we have our New Year's quiz, which is a lovely one, and we do that in January because I think January can sometimes be a bit of a difficult month for individuals. People can feel quite isolated after Christmas, so that was so fun this year. And I think that will be a bit of an annual thing. So lots of bits and bobs like that I try and get involved in, and I try and organise those. And I think they are really important, even though they might come across as little outings, little social things. I think they really help with team building, bringing the volunteers together, and everyone's overall well-being. I feel incredibly lucky to be the volunteers coordinator here at the Historic Dockyard Chatham. It's a post that I find incredibly rewarding, and I really enjoy working with all of our volunteers in all of our teams.
If you wish to listen to our podcasts on a smartphone or tablet, you can download the free Podbean app from the Google Play Store or Apple Store. If you have enjoyed our podcast, please hit the subscribe button and complete the details, and you will be sent a notification whenever a new episode is added. To contact us about podcasts, please email us at podcast@chdt.org.uk. That's podcast@chdt.org.uk. So until the next time, this is John saying goodbye and take care.